This broadcast, telecast, podcast, and whatever the hell else it is copyrighted by the Rad Network and the Rob and Steve Sports Show, all found at theradnetwork.com, and is for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, account, or descriptions of this madness, without the express permission of the Rad Network and Williams Broadcasting and Rob's Really Mean Lawyers, is prohibited. So just don't do it. It's the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
Now Norwood tries to kick his longest ever on grass, 47 yards. Norwood, wide right.
Welcome to 2 hours of sports and nothing but sports.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs win the World Series. Bryant makes the play. It's over. And the Cubs have finally won it all.
Email the show at ras@theradnetwork.com.
4th and 5, the national championship on the line right here. He's going for the corner. He's got it. Vince Young scores.
And now the Rad Network presents the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
I often say that I'm so sure, like, I don't know, hour ago, 30 minutes ago, I know exactly what we're going to start with, and then something happens. I go, let's just throw that out there. We only kind of mildly speculated about this, and we never really got into it, Steve, but we did just that John Tortorella, who came in, swooped in with 8 games left to coach the Vegas Golden Knights into the Stanley Cup, what they lost in 6 games. He will not return to the Knights, despite going 21-8-1, including the playoffs. He would like to coach next season. Knights said really nice things about him, said he was brought in for his attitude and get everybody's head straight, and they appreciate it, blah, 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 blah. The Knights still have Bruce Cassidy, under contract. They have not allowed still Edmonton and the Kings, one of whom's already moved on, the other ones basically have to interview Cassidy. The NHL says they're within their rights. I haven't heard anything like they'll go back to Cassidy, but what do you think of this whole decision?
I was very surprised to see that Tortorella, I thought he was the coach. I mean, he stepped in the last 8 games of the season, took them all the way to the 6th game of the Stanley Cup, and then did not return. And if I heard you right, because this part I was not aware of, he says he wants to coach next year. Is
According to sources told ESPN he would like to coach next season. Yeah.
Why does he want to coach the Vegas Golden Knights? He just took them to the Stanley Cup, or does he think that, okay, that well's gone dry now, we're not going to do better than that, let's go try another opportunity?
Is it his decision, or did the Knights, because the Knights statement, Kelly McCrimmon, who's the GM, said, "We thank Torts for the guidance. When the decisions was made to bring Torts to Vegas, we needed an immediate impact to help us at a pivotal point in the season, experience leadership, what we were looking for, grateful for, blah, blah, blah. Wish he and his family the best." I mean, did the Knights say no thanks? But and the reviews from their players, the Knights loved him in those 30 games.
Which would then surprise me if this is a Knights decision and not his. How do you, in essence, fire a coach and he didn't have hey, look, we're going to bring you in. Let's see how it plays out. And then we'll, talk about the future, but we're going to fire you and you get beat in the 6th game of the Stanley Cup and we're going to move on. It puts a little bit more sense into the Bruce Cassidy, but I don't see how you can go back to Cassidy as the head coach when you're removing with 8 games to go and Tortorella takes him to the Stanley Cup. You can't return there. So how many coaches are the Vegas Golden Knights going to confuse us with here? When you get a coach and you fire him 8 games to go, you hire an interim replacement, he gets you to the Stanley Cup, and then you let him walk as well. At a certain point, don't you run out of the question you and I always ask is, who are you going to get that's better? Because if I'm a coach, I'm really questioning if I want to go to Vegas. I think it's a great landing spot. I would like to believe anyone would want to coach the Vegas Golden Knights, but this would be 2 really head-scratching decisions on head coaches for this team in the last Well, what are we talking? 3 months, 2 months?
When they brought Tortorella in, his contract was only through June 30th, the end of the league calendar. Fine. Come on in, save the day, and then, like you said, we'll talk. And he takes them all the way to the Stanley Cup, and they go 6 games, and apparently the decision is either mutual or one side says, yeah, no, this wasn't good enough. The word is that the Knights are expected to evaluate the rest of their coaching staff, and they have long viewed Ryan Craig, who is the organization's head coach in Henderson, as the future coach of the franchise.
Okay. Henderson's been very successful. The Silver Knights. I haven't been to a game yet. My wife and I keep talking about going to a game there and checking them out. And maybe that's what they've determined, that they need to just go bring in this coach. Maybe he's high on the radar of these other teams and they're afraid they're going to lose him. And that's the reasoning for the decision. I've I've not even heard any of this. Normally, you hear little bits and pieces here and there. This hit out of blue today, and I'm still trying to grasp what really is going on.
As I said, when I saw the story come through, my initial reaction was, wow, didn't see that coming. Then a couple minutes later, I thought, well, Steve and I talk a lot of hockey, more than most. I wonder, is this a big enough deal? And then when I kept thinking about it, I go, yeah, it makes no sense. And everybody seems to be, from what I saw, I didn't have a lot of time because the story just broke, shell shocked by the announcement, the news, and no idea what the Knights are going to do, who did this, who caused this, and then this semi kind of sort of bombshell that Tort says, yeah, I want to coach. I want to coach next season. I mean, is he just going to become the mercenary coach? He just hangs around until, because we know the NHL fires everybody, after 8 games, 6 games, 29 games, doesn't matter. Maybe Torts is the guy everybody just every year will just bring in to do recon and get us to the promised land as best you can.
That would be funny if he worked on all these temporary contracts for the remainder of the year. Let's go. I think he needs to capitalize off of this one. Took him to the Stanley Cup final. Let's go get a 4 or 5 year contract. He's got to be a hot commodity. I mean, he turned this franchise around. They were in third place behind Anaheim as well when, and Edmonton, when he took the helm, went 7-0-1 and won the division, went from there. But as you were saying that, I started chuckling because I'm like, welcome to the NFL, where no head coach job is safe, no matter how good of a season you have or what you do. Don't expect to buy a home in whatever city you take the job at, because you probably won't be there for 3 years. I mean, it seems that every coach gets turned over outside of a handful within 2 to 3 years, and they just cycle them around and they move around the league. It's just welcome to the NHL, the parity, and maybe that's something else I really enjoy about this league.
We'll see if usually this stuff leaks out, whose decision this was and or why, but we'll see what we hear over the next day or two. What I was going to start with was, it's almost as if Brendan Sorsby and or his team were listening to us yesterday, because towards the end of the show, you said, if I could, I would just tell the guy, go to the supplemental draft. It's your best hope. This is the Texas Tech quarterback, gambled on a variety of sporting events, including his own team, Indiana, never to lose, etc. Booked himself into rehab after the NCAA launched an investigation, came out and said, I'm an addict, but I'm cured. And the NCAA said, well, we love you, but you still have to be punished. Made its way into the courts. And you and I yesterday were like, God, can we just get this out of the courts? Can we? Oh, that's right. Now the Big 12 is going to boycott everything that has to do with Texas Tech. You gave the advice, and Brendan Sorsby said, that Steve guy, he's got it going on. A week after getting his legal victory against the NCAA that cleared the way for him to play this fall, pending any appeals, Sorsby reverse course and is planning on applying for the NFL supplemental draft, which is exactly what you said yesterday he should do. If the league grants him entry, all teams have a short window in which to reach a conclusion on Sorsby, who garnered early buzz as a potential first-round selection in 27, but that assumed the trajectory of another season of developing this fall. You, Steve, saw a lot of problems with him when I asked you to break him down initially. Kind of said the same thing. He needs time. He needs to play more. Front offices and coaching staff have a lot to dissect and about a month to do so. If the league allows Sorsby into a supplemental draft, and this is where this whole thing goes over my head, Steve, I understand that if an NFL team takes Sorsby with a pick used in the 26 supplemental, they lose that pick in the 27 draft. Okay.
That is correct.
That I got. What I don't get is a player hasn't been picked up in the supplemental draft since 2019, and the league hasn't held one since 2023. What determines whether or not the NFL holds a supplemental draft?
You have to have players in the supplemental draft. You're not going to hold it if nobody applies to be eligible for the supplemental draft.
How is no one applying when you've got all these guys that aren't drafted or want to come in from the UFL or whatever?
Well, if you're in the UFL, you're a free agent. You don't need to go into the supplemental draft. This is just the college players that are coming out, and with the NIL deal, it just isn't there anymore. So there's no real reason to have a supplemental draft. This is a rare occasion here. We do have a player that has basically been declared ineligible. And I think back to, they had him back in the olden days, and this part of I hate about getting old. There was the Ohio State running back who wanted to come out early and challenge the NFL. There was the Oklahoma running back Marcus. I'm trying to think what his last name was, who got in trouble. And if I remember right, kind of got kicked off the Oklahoma team or something like that. And then he applied for the supplemental draft. I don't know if Art Schleister fell into that, the quarterback with the gambling problem and that. For some reason, off the top of my head, I'm thinking that Art Schleister was another player that went into the supplemental draft. So there have been these players that run afoul with the NCAA and various things and disagree, and that have moved towards the supplemental draft.
According to SI.com, priority for the supplemental draft is determined by splitting the 32 NFL teams into three groups. Teams with 6 or fewer wins the year before, non-playoff teams with more than 6 wins, and playoff teams. And then priority within each group is finalized by a weighted lottery. Very convoluted, etc. At this point, with the Sorsby story being so big, is the NFL essentially, if for no other reason, PR reasons, bound to do the supplemental draft thing?
No, he has to be accepted into it. It's not he declared, so now it must happen. The NFL has to agree that he meets whatever their requirements are, and understand even if they put him in the supplemental draft, the NFL now is going to have to sit back and determine, will there be any additional disciplinary action, gambling on, college football, gambling on his own team. So the NFL has a tough decision to make here, as well as, will they permit him to enter the supplemental draft? And then the teams, once that's determined, then the teams have a difficult decision on, do we want to take a chance on him, bring him in? We already have our team, our rosters. We've done our rookie camps. We're now hitting the mini camps that are mandatory. He's getting a really late head start into this whole process. So will a team feel that it's worth the baggage, knowing that he has this addiction? And where does he fit? And does he fit into our plans? Is he better than our backup and our third and fourth quarterbacks? But you're not getting them for free. You're going to have to use a draft pick. Would you have drafted him right now if he was in this last draft? Is the question. I think, knowing everything you now know, would you have drafted him knowing this? And that's the decision the teams have to make.
Am I correct that you agree basically with the assessment that I just read from, I think it was NFL.com, that basically Sorsby is, he needs a lot of work. Everybody sees the potential. He's not NFL ready, etc.
Yes, but one of the great things the NFL has put in is their they have the group, look, we have our practice squad, and they can just throw him into the practice squad, see if he develops. But then you have your Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance went really high because his ceiling was so big. And he had to learn on the fly. Is Sorsby better than Trey Lance, who has never been able to fully make it in the NFL? He's started a few games here and there, but he's never shown that he has developed enough to be even a contributing quarterback in the NFL. How far back is he? You get Drew Lar, who was drafted by the Steelers, and Mike McCarthy says they had to break down every single thing about him and basically start him from scratch because he didn't have the mechanics to be a successful NFL quarterback. And he was a very successful quarterback in college football. So, how far back is Sorsby and how much do they have to break him down? I don't see a team taking a project. I do believe, though, every team, if they feel a player can help them win, will be willing to take the gamble.
So there were, I went through it, NFL, ESPN, USA Today. I think I got through half a dozen, CBS as well. It was the same upwards of 8 to 9 teams, and even 3 or 4 of them that were mentioned. They almost mocked that they were mentioning them. But essentially, so there's like 3 or 4 teams that the experts, which we're supposed to be part of that class, Steve, are saying would be legitimate teams that would actually really maybe be taking a look at Sorsby if this all goes down. And then there's some others that are kind of like the outliers, kind of like the long shots. Like, for example, a lot of people bring up the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield's training camp deadline for reaching a contract extension. If no deal's reached, would Tampa Bay add Sorsby as an insurance policy? I mean, again, he's got this year to play behind Mayfield and learn from him, but is he worth a draft pick? Like, what draft pick are they losing in 27? Their first round pick?
No, no. If they draft him in the 7th round of the supplemental draft, they give up the 7th round pick in the next draft. And that's where, is it going to be a first, second, third, or fourth? I don't believe a chance in the world. The question will be, will somebody go and use a 6th or a 7th? Because those are players you really don't expect to make the team. And how thin is your quarterback room? I found it comical that, looking at this morning and the announcement was made, and the first thing they do is go to the Cleveland Browns and see if they will go. And I'm like, they already got 5 quarterbacks in the room. Why would they? And they drafted one this last year. Why would they ever even consider using a supplemental pick? They could, because it's the Cleveland Browns and it's one of the worst run organizations, it seems, for my lifetime since they became the Cleveland Browns, because the real Cleveland Browns are the Baltimore Ravens, and we can't let people think any differently. But this expansion Cleveland Browns team's been terribly run from the get-go.
Other than that being the answer, it's the Cleveland Browns. The line that I highlighted and pulled out was, it made me chuckle because it's true. The reason the Cleveland Browns might consider Sorsby is Cleveland has a quarterback room with lots of options and no answers. Surely they could stand for a high potential passer to take the reins to the offense. There's an interesting logic. Of course, we hear that it's Deshaun Watson versus all pro Shedeur Sanders. And it's too close to call, says head coach Todd Monken, although the owner's made it pretty clear he wants Deshaun to play. So why not bring in, this would be the 6th, wouldn't it? The 6th quarterback? Come on. Come on. That seems silly.
None of these quarterbacks will even get any reps. I mean, we sat there and heard Kyler Murray complain that the big problem he's having in Minnesota is he has to split the reps with JJ McCarthy, and he's used to getting all of them so he could learn the system, which, if you read between the lines, is that I hate film study. I hate all of this other thing. So the only work I want to do is on the field by getting reps. And they're taking that away from me and making me do some homework, which I'm not a fan of.
Now that you've explained that it's not that big of a draft pick that you're giving up,
No.
it makes some of these a little bit more palatable, because some of them, when I saw them, I'm like, what? But again, I'm not as adroit at this supplemental drafting as you. Like, for example, there's a few teams they mentioned that would be well beyond this season. Like, we're literally looking future. Now, there's supposed to be a lot of quarterbacks in the draft this year. We'll see how that shakes out. But is it worth it to just get Sorsby now, knowing you're not going to need him this year? Try to develop him. It's not much of a pick. For example, what about the Atlanta Falcons? Unless Tua or Penix engineers a career turnaround, would Atlanta remain completely unsettled? And then Sorsby could be brought along slowly. They got Stefanski. He's one of these quarterback whisperers. and he joins an offense with plenty of skill position support. Like that's one when I first saw it, I thought, but now I don't know. Maybe it is worth it for Atlanta because those are two unknown commodities. I think you and I agree. Penix is the man if he can stay healthy, be who he's supposed to be. We've seen too many careers fizzle out like that. And I know you and I, we both wish for his own personal health. It's his decision. Tua would have wrapped it up himself. I don't know what we're going to get out of Tua. Maybe Atlanta says 6th round, 7th round. Sure, let's see.
And it'd be interesting to see what Matt Ryan does because he's taken over, as I believe his title's the president of football operations with the Falcons. It was a head scratcher when they selected him. We all said, what are they doing? It looks like they're on the verge of being the best team in their division, fill that need, bring in that best player available. And they went to Penix. And we didn't understand that because you had Kirk Cousins on the huge contract. You've now moved on from Cousins and ate, portion of that salary. And then to bring him in would be like admitting, and they could because Matt Ryan's taken over, that, wow, that was one of the stupidest draft picks we've made as a franchise. I don't see them doing it. I think Penix is too good. I think he just needs to get healthy. I did read today that he was not cleared for the 11-on-11 drill. So that leaves Tua to do the mandatory mini camp on his own without any competition. The ones that I look at this is like the Indianapolis Colts. You have to have a quarterback whisperer. You have to look at it going, yeah, there may not be. Anthony Richardson was never, cut bait with him. You blew that draft pick. That was one of the worst draft picks. And everyone knew it. The guy couldn't complete 50% of his passes in college football when wide receivers are wide open. And the majority of your passes are less than 3 yards from the line of scrimmage because they're quick outs and slants and stuff like that. He couldn't complete those passes consistently. What possibly made you think he'd be a quality NFL quarterback? And I'll hit on the combine. That's one of the things I hate about the combine. I like it because it's there, but you see so many teams get so, enthused and excited about a player to combine. I've always believed you need to look at the player on tape. Brian Urlacher comes to mind as a player that didn't perform or look great in a combine, but he had everything on tape, and we watched him have a great career. But I can see a team like the Colts who's sitting there. I don't see the Cardinals because they brought on Carson Beck, and I don't think Sorsby's going to be better than Carson Beck. But one advantage that you haven't hit on, you kind of did, but you didn't make it blatantly obvious. You get them for another year because you can put the player on the practice squad and they get all of this year. If they came out next year, now they have a year under their belt practicing and learning the system. So you put them a year ahead. It's like a redshirt year that you get in college to let them learn the system. And then the following year, maybe they can start to compete.
The Colts weren't mentioned by any of the half dozen sources that I use to culminate the list of the 8 or 9 that everybody's mentioning. You did bring up the phrase, we mentioned it earlier, quarterback whisperer. A lot of people say, what about the Vikings? Pair him up with Kevin O'Connell and let O'Connell, again, slowly work on him as we deal with the Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy fiasco that's going on there. The Steelers were mentioned, although a lot of people said they won't take on the baggage because of just the Rooney family, and the Steelers are almost at this point to me like the Browns when it comes to their quarterback situation. It's like, sure.
And you got to go all the way back. I want to say it was the last 3 years of Ben Roethlisberger that he couldn't move. He was a statue. He couldn't take 2 or 3 steps out of that pocket because he couldn't move. So they haven't been good in that quarterback room for many years now.
What about would Sorsby? And there's a lot of reasoning behind this. The volatility of the person making the decision is part of it because they can do whatever they want. Would Sorsby be a better backup quarterback than, say, Joe Milton III and or Sam Howell? Because the Dallas Cowboys are being mentioned as a potential landing spot.
I could see that, not just the Texas connection, Texas Tech trying to keep him into the Cowboys. I'm not a fan of Milton. I watched him in Michigan early in his career. Great arm. He's a coach killer. I think that's the easiest way to sum him up. In a combine, one of those wonderful quarterbacks, has all the tools, has the running ability, a cannon of an arm, just doesn't know how to use it. So he's getting a Ferrari to drive in a school zone because he doesn't know how to take it over 25 miles an hour.
That's Milton.
Yes.
Yeah. But is Sorsby the unknown? I mean, is he? But again, Jerry Jones, and they don't care; they'll bring on anybody. And like you said, the Texas connection. Um, is he worth just a 6th or 7th round pick to the Cowboys? I don't know.
It might be. I wouldn't have Milton there. Sam Howell, I don't know if he's going to be better than Sam Howell. And you got to view that part as, is he going to be better than anyone in our quarterback room? Because you built your quarterback room right now for this season. You have to say that Sorsby is an upgrade. If you feel he's an upgrade and you can deal with the baggage, I think you can take a chance at him. I just don't know if I would view it, if I'm the Cowboys, as Sorsby's an upgrade over Sam Howell. Maybe he needs to go to the CFL. Go find out what he can do there. And I know the CFL season has started. Go to the CFL. Go someplace else. Show a little bit. Maybe the UFL is playing, but that's too late into that season. Go find a way to get a little bit more experience. I'd say go to the Arena League. I don't even know if they're still playing. Go the Kurt Warner route. Go light it up. Have a great season and get an invite next year.
The team that I think 5 of the 6 sources I was looking at this morning, that everybody said is their number one main pick, is the one you kind of poo-pooed away, the Arizona Cardinals. Their justification, I copied and pasted a few different sentences from different articles, so these aren't all the same people. But they basically write, you got Jacoby Brissett, who's disgruntled. He wants his big contract for being named the starter. He's trying to fend off 3rd-round pick Carson Beck. And even if Sorsby sat out the entirety of this transitional season for both he and Arizona, he would draw a sharp contrast with Brissett and with rookie Beck, neither of whom have measured up yet. So why don't the Cardinals just throw him out there and see what can happen? That's the most unexciting one to me as well, because it's the Cardinals.
You didn't bring up Gardner Minshew, who's technically the 2nd quarterback there. So you're telling me that you can only keep 3 quarterbacks. I mean, maybe you can keep 4, but pretty much every NFL team has 3 quarterbacks. Well, that's, Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck. Well, I don't think he's better than Carson Beck. Carson Beck's a very polished, played a lot of games in college football. Whether or not that's going to translate to anything close to a quality quarterback in the NFL, I don't know. But so are you getting rid of Brissett, or are you getting rid of Gardner Minshew to bring him on board? And if it's Brissett, you named him your starting quarterback. How can you then go and cut him for Sorsby and then say, well, we're going to put him on the practice squad and he's not even going to play this year? And he was your starting quarterback. And Gardner Minshew actually has a higher paying contract than Brissett. So how do you cut Gardner Minshew? That's why that one makes no sense to me. You got to move one of them. Who are you moving? And I find it, to me, the only one you could say is, look, he's going to be better than Carson Beck. We wasted a draft pick, but now you're wasting the draft pick. What was Carson Beck? I think it was a 4th. So you're wasting a 4th, and let's say it's a 7th in the supplemental draft to get Sorsby. Ownership should fire the general manager if they're going to give up a 4th and a 7th type of thing for Sorsby.
Is Sorsby declaring or planning to apply for the NFL supplemental draft? Does it bring this story to a close? Does it bring this to an end, or does it put a pin in it until the next person tries to go down this route and it has to be adjudicated again by either the courts or the leagues?
The can of worms has already been opened. Whether or not it's Sorsby who pushes it or someone else, I believe it's going to be someone else, because we've seen a judge is willing to say, due to whatever his reasons were, the disability, the unfairness, the severe repercussions that's going to hurt him financially, et cetera, has opened it up, and the NCAA's got a big problem. They got to figure out how to close this back up the best that they can immediately. And I'm going to throw one more thing into this Sorsby thing, which is the fine print out of this article that I just want to share with everyone. Um, they're not taking back the NIL money that they've paid to Sorsby. He is allowed to keep that money. So if it was the 5 million and he already put it in his bank account, hey, I'm getting paid to play for Texas Tech, even though I've never taken a snap. I'll take the 5 million and then do what's right, which is go into the supplemental. Don't keep fighting this in the court system, even though none of us believe it's going to end it. I think he opened it, and now somebody else is going to step through that open door. But I think he did what's right. I didn't want to see the Big 12 with their backs against the wall push back on Texas Tech. I don't want to see all the other college athletic teams get punished because the gymnastics or the track team or the softball team are not going to be permitted to compete against Texas Tech. And I think it lets Texas Tech off the hook because they were standing firmly with that high morality of we're standing behind him. He has an illness, the whole thing. I don't believe anybody believed this was about doing what's right for the university because yesterday's show, we laid that out. If you want to do right by him, you don't let him play, but you continue to support him. You don't pull his scholarship. You keep him and treat him as if he was a player on the team as far as the nutrition, the food, the classes, the tutor to help him study and get good grades, and you take care of him that way and you make sure that he goes to all the classes. So I think it allows everyone to take that step back until the next fight starts over this.
I don't know anything about this Sorsby kid. I don't even know if I've seen an interview with him of any kind. But you bring up an interesting angle. I wonder if anybody got into his head, dad, mentor, lawyer, and said, "Look, dude, do you want your name attached to this? Because this is where it's headed. You're going to be the Chicago Black Sox in college football if we keep going down this road. Do you want this to be the Sorsby scandal, or do you want to do the right thing?" And was that enough to convince him to say, "Okay, I've gone as far as I can"? What, you're shaking your head? No, you don't buy it.
I don't buy that at all.
Okay.
I'm going with the same thing as he entered the gambling rehab because an investigation started. He got wind of it and tried to save face. I think yesterday they had a discussion after they listened to our show and said, look, this is our option to get out of this. And they talked to the people and where are we going with the NIL money? I think it's all about the NIL money and the fact that he's able to keep it. They're not asking for any of it back. Then he said, cool. Okay, I'm going to get paid. So it's no longer about fighting to play college football because I don't believe it was about fighting to play college football. I think it was about he wanted his $5 million. He's now been guaranteed that they're not going to take it back. So I have my money. So yeah, I'm willing to step away and now try to go to the pro level, which if what I'm saying, and again, it's just my thoughts, if what I'm saying tells me I would never select him because it's been all about the money, it's all about getting caught. He has no morals, no ethical compass in his body, and he's just doing whatever's best for him at that moment. And we'll figure out if I get caught, how to get out of the consequences of my actions at that time, but I'm not worried about it now.
All right, last one. This is going to seem like a pained analogy, but I do think it works. About 2 decades ago, one of the big speculations in professional sports was, when is that first openly gay big name player going to come out and going to change the entire landscape of professional sports? We've had some, but we haven't had the name. And it seems like it's kind of gone away. It seems like with the rest of the sociological changes in America, there's always going to be the locker room thing. I'm not suggesting that. But it seems like everybody's kind of like, whatever, whatever. Now, the reason I use that is I know you and I think we've already had this with a guy that plays for the Dodgers. But what's going to happen, because you know it's inevitable, and I know you and I do this on this show, that we're this close to a fan charging a golfer because he misses a putt and he bet on him or whatever. You and I we got a pretty good winning percentage. It's just that it's over the course of time. When are we going to get that big one? And is it going to change anything? We got Pete Rose, totally different landscape. There was no online betting and all that other thing. are we going to get, won't be Otani, a level player like that, and a B level or higher player who gets busted doing this, and does it change anything, or do we just punish him and everybody involved and move along?
Are you saying, are we going to become aware of a gay athlete? Is that really the
No.
question?
No.
Oh,
The gay athlete was the setup of 20
okay.
years ago. That's what everybody was waiting for. It would change everything. Right now, what I'm looking at is the big name player who is busted for the gambling thing, which you and I both think Otani's hands were way dirty in his deal. And does it change it? Does it alter the outcome? Or do we just punish the guy? Because there's been a lot of names and it doesn't change anything.
See, I think it's already come out. You look at the Chauncey Billups, you think of
Right.
Terry Rozier, you Shohei Ohtani. I'm not sure it gets a whole lot bigger than that. And we know where that case went. I don't think it changes anything. I think it just becomes a PR nightmare for the league. Uh, of where the player is and how they're going to treat it. Is he a big enough star to let it go? And I can roll back to Michael Jordan. I mean, many people believe that Michael Jordan retired due to his gambling issues. There are those out there that believe that that is what caused Michael Jordan's father to be murdered in that rest area because it was a look, Michael, you better pay up. We're taking your dad out. You know, you can't take out Michael Jordan. You'll never get paid. So I think we've already had it. I don't think it's going to change the landscaping. My whole question would be is how's the league going to try to clean up the mess?
Right. And do they just keep covering it up?
Yep.
Or do they clean it up at all?
I,
Because it
I,
feels
I
like
I believe if it's a big enough star, they clean it up. If it's a not a big enough star, then they will do everything in their effort to give the appearance that they're cleaning it up as a sport, to do what's best for the people, the public, to ensure their integrity. Will they actually do anything serious? I don't believe they will.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
if you've never heard of microseal, let me tell you what it isn't. It is not a really small marine mammal. Get it? A micro seal? Oh, fine. Just ask AI. AI describes microseal this way with a bunch of AI words. Microseal is a premium, eco-friendly, and biodegradable fabric protection spray that penetrates deep into fibers to provide permanent stain, soil, and sun fade resistance for rugs, furniture, and delicate fabrics. It uses nanotechno blah 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 and blue 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 blue. What AI is trying to say is that microseal is non-toxic, non-allergenic, safe for pets and children, and although AI doesn't say this, it should, you need to contact a longtime maggot Joel from AdvantageSteam.com right now to get him to apply microseal for you. You can even make appointments online at AdvantageSteam.com. We've had microseal for years at Williams Manor, and it treats a lot more than carpets. Microseal protects virtually all fibrous materials, including wool, cotton, silk, suede, leather, and synthetic fabrics. It protects upholstery, carpets, rugs, draperies, and clothing, including wedding dresses. And ladies, you're going to need what? 3 or 4 of those in your lifetime. And it protects against stains, moisture, and UV degradation without changing the texture. Also, if you're an interior designer, Joel has a special program just for you, and all you have to do is say the password, which is what? What? There's no password, I guess. Never mind. Whoever you are, contact Joel at AdvantageSteam.com. And if you're an interior designer, tell him, I guess. I don't know. That's AdvantageSteam.com, where you'll learn more about microseal and everything else that Joel offers at AdvantageSteam.com. That's AdvantageSteam.com. AdvantageSteam.com. Longtime advertiser Sue Berry, that's Berry with an A, is more important now than ever. Sue and her team have been serving Northern Nevada and the outlying areas for 30 years, and her experience in both commercial and residential lending is vital, as every day we're bombarded with news of interest rates, the market, the economy, and a bunch of other stuff that Sue can actually make sense of while everyone else's eyes glaze over. Now remember, it's Sue Berry with an A, B-A-R-R-Y, SueBerry.com. Most people think berry is spelled like a fruit or Halle Berry, but no, it's Sue Berry with an A, like soul singer Barry White's first name.
I've heard people say,
Stop that. Sue is a broker versus a retail lender, which means she can shop over 150 different lenders to get you the very best rate possible. And on average, someone who uses a broker like Sue saves over $10,000 per loan, which includes refinancing. And if you have a rate at 6.5% or higher, call Sue for a free quote now on a refinance. Sue Berry and her incredible team from Barrett Financial can be found at SueBerry.com. That's Berry with an A. I've been working with Sue and recommending her to you for years. All you need to do is call her now so she can get you pre-approved. Just call your residential and commercial lending expert, Sue Berry, at 775-843-9983. Oh, Rob, stop. You're going too fast. What was the number again? 775-843-9983. Or just head to SueBerry.com. The number's right there. Berry is B-A-R-R-Y. Sue Berry with an A.com. That's Sue Berry, B-A-R-R-Y.com. SueBerry.com.
Disclaimer, Sue Berry, NMLS number 366040. Barrett Financial Group, LLC, NMLS number 181106. Nevada 5091. Equal housing opportunity.
Steve has been running sports books for decades, and Rob spent decades running radio so far into the ground he just created his own network. This is the Rob and Steve Sports Show on the Rad Network.
Let's head to Major League Baseball. We'll start with one of our favorites. Steve and I have been big fans of Elly De La Cruz since he started in the majors. He's going on a rehab assignment this weekend. If the next couple of days go according to plan, the Reds shortstop has been sidelined since June 1st due to a right hamstring strain, ran the bases, took some grounders before last night's game against the Mets. He's going to run again today before a final decision is made. He snapped his streak of 276 consecutive games and was batting .280 with 12 home runs. Here's the thing that was kind of funny about this, Steve. Was you sent me a text, I think it was yesterday, about Elly De La Cruz and about his contract, and I didn't know if it was related to this story or not, but you were bringing up what we've been talking about so much, all of these young players with a ton of talent getting signed to these huge contracts moving forward, like every shortstop. And then you start looking at all the other players that are sitting out there in similar situations. It's like in the NFL when we talk about who's the next big quarterback signing, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, etc. In baseball, you start looking at, you've got collective bargaining, lockout coming on December 1st. Are they smarter to lock players up now? They're grandfathered in. If there's going to be a salary cap is one of the things they're talking about. What do the Tigers do about a guy like Tariq Skubal who says he wants free agency? Well, when's that going to happen? You start looking, Paul Skeens, we've been wondering, is he a half billion-dollar guy? Elly De La Cruz, like out of nowhere, you said, what's his contract going to be like? Where did that come from?
It had nothing to do with the injury. I think when I sent it to you, I didn't even know he was injured. I was just, watching, I think I was watching the Reds or something like that. And I went, hey, wow, really the player who launched this position that caught my eye at how good the young shortstops are was Elly De La Cruz. We've been talking about him for a few years now because he burst on the season with his how good and spectacular he can make some plays, the ground he can cover, how strong his arm is, and his power. I mean, his speed. I mean, just everything you could ask from a player. And you see these other players getting paid, but he has not come up yet. You haven't heard the Reds reaching out. And then I think it was after that I saw, oh, he's hurt. And it's like, oh, because I was going to the question you asked me is, one, are the Reds going to re-sign him? But the question you asked me was, do you get that contract done now so when the salary cap and everything else, they can find a way to grandfather some things in? Or are the Reds so far below the cap that they don't get the pleasure of grandfathering any of these big contracts in, which I think is another stumbling part for bringing in the cap, because you allow the Dodgers because they have multiple players that put him over the cap to exceed the cap and get grandfathered in. But if this team signs a couple of players and then they don't get grandfathered in because they come up right close to the threshold, I don't see that as being fair, because then you're just granting the Yankees, the Mets, the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, those teams that exception, and that doesn't work. So I think there's so many things that come up, but the question for you really was, do the Reds go sign him now so they can possibly have that exception for when a cap hits the league and they lock him up, do what's right? And I want to see him stay a Reds as well.
That's the thing. It's not a linear example, but you mentioned the other name. Ellie De La Cruz to me feels a lot like Mike Trout right now. Like he's just wasting away. He's in a smaller market. It's not SoCal. Um, and the Reds just seem so not for real. And De La Cruz was a year or two ahead of Bobby Witt Jr. because it was like De La Cruz started it. 'Cause it's like every shortstop, and you and I, people won't remember these names, but Walt Weiss Jr. and Johnny LeMaster. I mean, there were the names that were the standouts were Cal Ripken Jr. because no shortstop could do everything.
I'll bring one to you with Rob Pichelo. You're an A's fan. You got to remember Rob Pichelo.
Oh yes, absolutely. Okay, De La Cruz is currently in the pre-arbitration phase of his rookie contract. He earns $820,000 this season. He's under team control through 2029 when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. The Reds did offer him an extension last spring, would have been the largest in their franchise history, eclipsing Joey Votto's 10-year, $225 million deal, but De La Cruz, represented by Scott Boras, who else, turned the offer down to bet on himself. So that's where his contract stands right now. Then you start doing that thing. You start thinking about Bobby Witt Jr. And we've already talked about Paul Skeens and all of these young names. The pitching this year is off the charts with so many youngsters, and what a commodity that is. It's wow. There's so much out there to be signed, and that lingering wet blanket of this lockout is so hard to swallow.
And you hit on a name which I never even thought of until you said it. What does Scott Boras do if they put in a salary cap? All of his leverage and everything he has done for all these players over the years with getting them, the Bryce Harper contracts, these monstrous contracts, you put in a salary cap, he only has so much room. So he's not going to quit. He's not going to retire. But the advantage of Scott Boras as your agent goes right out the door.
I mean, Boros is what? He's pushing 60-ish, if not more. He's worth who knows how much. He has to have some type of pivot because he's still big in the other sports. Is he finding other ways for them to make money outside of the actual league? Is he, connected in with various endorsements and that kind of stuff that he brings them? But probably his name is probably what he brings at this point.
Yeah, it is his name. I think it is. And there are teams from articles that I've read in the past that just shy away from those players that Steve Boras is their agent because they know they can't sign them. It's going to be too high. And I'm talking about the small market teams, the Cleveland Guardians, the Milwaukee Brewers, and they shy away from anybody who wants to make good money. But is Steve Boras Paul Skeens' agent? And if so, then I would say there's no chance he's re-signing with the Pirates anytime soon.
It's Scott Boras.
Boras. I'm sorry, Scott Boras.
Manager, right? Wasn't Steve Boras a manager for the A's?
Steve Boras was a player. Right? Man, I want to in the 60s, yes, and then became a manager. Sorry, Scott Boras.
Okay. See, that's the other thing too. Is does Scott Boras just keep pushing these guys? Because to your question, so the Reds tried to lock De La Cruz up. He said, "No, I'm going to bet on myself." Does Ellie De La Cruz want to stay in Cincinnati? I don't think the Reds are going to lock him up. They don't show me any signs that they're in that position or that they're looking that far ahead. And does he just become the next guy who moves on to the Yankees or the Dodgers? It just doesn't feel like that's the destiny for De La Cruz right now.
under the current system with the
Under
salary
the
cap.
current
If you
system,
got to go
right.
175 as the floor and 242, 243 is the ceiling, everyone's playing within a $70 million range. Then suddenly, look, I can't go play for the Yankees and make more money, or the Dodgers really that much more money, because the big market teams are going to be spending them on some other players, and they're not going to be able to go 8, 9, 10 deep like we see them do now. So somebody's got to spend the money. The Reds can't sit there, or the Marlins on that $50 million payroll. I mean, they got to add 120 million. That might as well spend it on somebody.
And on the Scott Boros question and what else or what he brings and his name and his relationships, I don't care what the rules say. If you think for a minute this doesn't happen, won't happen, you're nuts. If this goes to a lockout and both sides are negotiating, guys like Scott Boros are going to know which way the wind is blowing if he's not overtly told. And he is then going to find a way to take the temperature of the Reds and take the temperature of his client and say to Ellie De La Cruz, hey, you know what? This is the best you can do. Just sign here, because this is where we're headed. And it'll be interesting if they go down this road of what you and I have said, what Bryce Harper has said, a few others. They have to settle on, yes, we are going to fundamentally change Major League Baseball. We're going to do a salary cap. But hey, we as the players have a bunch of ways we can make that look good for us. If they get to that point and they start talking that way, what'll be fascinating is all the signings that occur right after the deal is signed. How many days of that first week after they sign the deal to begin play again in 27 do you see a bunch of existing players get these long-term deals uh, that were retroactive, or something in there that is still going to find a way for the players to get their money one last time? It's going to happen. It does inevitably.
I agree with you, and I think it's going to hit on so many different levels. The middle player, that borderline fourth outfielder, utility infielder, are they going to start now getting, because there's big differences in those fourth outfielders that can contribute and those fourth outfielders that just allow a person to take a day off. I, I'm very excited to see how this landscape in baseball is going to shift if they put in a salary cap within those first couple of weeks on just what's really going to happen. And I believe if the owners sell it right, it's going to be very good for the players, because 90% of the league's going to make more money. They're going to have more rights. I think they have the ability to sign longer term contracts because they are that good player, not a great player that gets discarded quicker in their career to save money for a youth, because we don't have to pay them.
The backdrop to this whole thing is what you said. You're excited to see where this all goes. That excitement, though, has to rest on there being a season. And it's just going to be, as much as we're preparing for it, that there's not going to be one. I know I'm not prepared for it. I want this thing to get signed and done by spring training, because baseball's in such a great place. And if Bryce Harper can't be the smartest guy in the room, we're all doing something wrong when Bryce Harper's the guy saying, this is too good to be true, let's settle this. And they don't. That would be nuts. Ugh.
And to add at how much better this season is from prior years, I'm watching a game last night, not exactly sure if the Padres or the Reds game. I think it was actually the Reds game I was watching. And I watched it. It was like a couple of pitches in a row that the umpire blew it, but nobody challenged. I didn't sit there and yell at my TV saying, he's missing all these calls. No challenge, no big deal. We move on. And I don't get upset as a fan watching the game. I'm like, it was on them. They should have challenged. I don't feel sorry for them for that. And it took that frustration that I've had for so many years away. And I've said it before, I am enjoying this baseball season as much as I've enjoyed a baseball season in a long time. The thing that worries me is, roll it a year from now, what are we doing on June 16th, 2027? Because if the NBA finals are over, the NHL final, Stanley Cup's over. Yeah, we're preparing for football, but what are we watching on TV? Or is it the summer of do everything outdoors, and we'll
Mm.
catch up with sports in the fall.
I know you and I will be doing a lot of best of lists. Um, the over the weekend, the A's and Rockies and that joke of a series in Vegas. There was a Rockies player, I don't remember who, I think it was Sunday, who was not happy with two straight calls that the umpire made, and you could see he was chirping, and the announcer was saying, "Well, he's not." And all I said to my TV out loud was, "Then challenge it." They had challenges. It was like the seventh inning. That was it. That was it. Like you said, hey, dude, you're choosing not to challenge it. I don't know why you're acting like an ass on the field in this 23-9 game or whichever one it was, but that's on you. And then it just goes away. And you're right. It is so much more enjoyable. The players, the managers, they have less to yell about and get angry about and take ABS out of it, go to replay. Same thing for the most part. Baseball has done a really good job with technology. I would venture better than football so far.
I think they have, and they've taken the frustration out. They've allowed it to go on the field, which I believe strengthens my argument for using the technology to allow us as fans to enjoy the game more by taking away the frustration. Use it. The ABS has just, and like, given me more confidence that I'm right in this thing, and take the human element out. Use all the technology you can. And as sports fans, I believe we will almost all of us, enjoy the game watching it, because it'll then be solely about the product on the field, not questionable calls, not any of this other stuff. It's just what happens during the play on the field, which is what we should all want.
It was about 3 weeks ago. We were doing our show live, and Dustin May had a 7-inning no-hit bid against Milwaukee. He left the game in the eighth, took the loss. That was where the Brewers rallied for a 2-1 victory. That was on May 27th. So last night, same guy, Dustin May, pitched a one-hitter in a 3-0 victory over the San Diego Padres. 28-year-old righty threw 69 strikes in his 101 pitch masterpiece, issued only one walk during his first complete game ever. It was in the seventh inning when Manny Machado singled to left field. I believe that's Machado's third hit of the season, and that ended the bid for the no-hitter. What is the deal with Dustin May?
He's returning back. He got hurt. He's returning back to the pitcher he was with the Dodgers. His last few outings have been outstanding. He's having a really good year for the Cardinals. Last night's game just continued, and I just continue my frustration because the Red Sox traded for him. They saw something in him. Were feeling that they could and wanted the rewards of him getting healthy and turning it around, but they let him go. I mean, Walker Buehler is starting to figure it out. He's no longer just the flamethrower. He's got to learn the art of pitching. He's figuring it out. And his last 5-6 outings with the Padres have been much better. Kyle Harrison, I believe they won the trade with the Giants at the time, but now they've moved on every piece they got from the Giants for really nothing back, which, if they had Harrison, if they had Dustin May, if they had, Walker Buehler, do they really have to go out and pick up Sonny Gray? I just, sorry to make it about the Red Sox, but this just continues to show how big of a mess the Red Sox are. I give them credit. They notice it. Look, we think he's going to return, but then they take one sip of the soda and say, "Oh, I hate this. Oh, this is terrible." And they throw it away when they did their research to figure it out ahead of these other teams. They just discarded as trash the second something on the analytics didn't line up. And he should have been here. He wasn't. So we got to move on because he doesn't meet our analytic expectations.
Another highlight from last night, we were talking about the Tigers yesterday, and Colt Keith, 24 years old, who hit 13 home runs in each of his previous 2 major league seasons, had 1 homer this year, decided, you know what, I'm going to hit 3 against the Astros. 3 home runs against Houston. The Tigers won 9-3. Tigers 12 games under 500. We talked yesterday about exactly this. Struggled for most of the season and are 6 games out, or were prior to yesterday's game, of that American League third and final wild card playoff spot. We have documented this, Steve. It's not 6 games. It's 6 games and what, 9 teams and a hell of a run and a couple of other teams not going on runs, and the Tigers, it feels like they're presenting both sides of their mouth here. On one side, we think we can make a run. On the other hand, maybe we are sellers. We don't know. And then games like this make them go, maybe we can take a run at it.
I feel sorry for the Tigers, but on the other side, I'm laughing. Keith, 1 homer going into this game. We're the middle of June. He hits 3 here. Wow, maybe we got something going. They put 9 runs up here. I think they scored 12 like the other day. Their offense is coming around. We got Tyreek Skubal back. McGonigal's having that, rookie of the year type thing. Gleyber Torres has come back. He's hitting the ball great. So many positive things. The Tigers are getting healthy and they're competing. That, yes, I believe they are torn. Do we try to run it out with Skubal and see if we can make the playoffs? But that's when you got to ask the hard question. Even if we make the playoffs, where are we going? Which is why I always fall back on, I feel for him. Make a huge offer to Skubal. Sign him. Give him whatever he's asking. Just do it. If you have enough money to own a major league team, you have enough money to pay Skubal, pay him. But they're not going to. So you better get something for him and find the best trade you can.
Talking about younger players who are going to be up for big contracts, Paul Skeens, Ellie De La Cruz. There's so much young talent in Major League Baseball. Some are 4 or 5 years away from their first big contract, next big contract. If everything stays the same, I don't know where he's going to be or how much he's going to make, but Nick Kurtz is looking at a hell of a future. He decided to hit 2 homers, drive in 5 last night. Jeff McNeil went deep, knocked in 4. A's beat the Pirates 11-2. JT Ginn, one of the 2.5 good pitchers on that whole A's staff, went 6 strong innings, allowed an unearned run, 6 hits, 2 walks. He threw 98 pitches. A's have moved within a half game of the first place Mariners. The Pirates, they've lost 8 of their last 10. And again, almost midway through the season, little hiccup, or are they starting to wake up? Are they reeling? You can't quite tell yet with the Pirates.
Yeah, the Pirates are a little disappointing. Jared Jones got beat last night. Wasn't the best outing, but A's really didn't hit the ball hard. He had a handful of hard hit balls, but he gave up a couple of homers. So I think he's coming around. He's not there yet. Pirates, as you know, I've been really high on them the last few weeks, but then they go into this tailspin and I start shaking my head going, what's going on with them? I can't figure it out. The A's, JT Ginn, hats off to him. He's pitching in Sacramento. That's a hitter's ballpark. And it doesn't matter. On the road, at home, give me the ball. I'm going to go out there with a quality start. He did it again last night against a Pirates team. And give him his respect. This isn't the Pirates teams that we've known in the past that can't score runs. This is one of the better offensive teams in the league. No earned runs, 6 innings. He continues to pitch outstanding. And then I'm going to go to the last one, Nick Kurtz. I am getting closer and closer to putting Nick Kurtz in the Aaron Judge category. I think he is this good. His rookie season was unbelievable last year. He started off slow this year. He had his walks, but he wasn't doing a whole lot. You look at him now, he's up to 18 homers. His on base is 443. He's over 1.0 for his on base plus slugging, his OPS, which is in the elite category. This is his second year. That's when players can take that step back because the league adjusts to them. There's enough film out there. Everybody knows about Nick Kurtz. He continues to get it done. And I really, truly believe he is moving into that, if he's not already, into that elite hitters with the Yordan Alvarez's, the Aaron Judges. And keep in mind, I don't put Kyle Schwarber in that. Kyle Schwarber has great power, we see that with all of his home runs, but Kyle Schwarber hits 230. He has a lot of outs in that game as well. Nick Kurtz is becoming an elite hitter in this league.
I'll start with Schwarber just because I was watching part of the game this weekend and they were mentioning this. Because you're right. What's his all-time average? About 250 if he's lucky. He's at, I believe it's 354 career homers already. Well, 5 more seasons. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Um,
I mean, he
I
gets the magical number.
I get that, and it's going to be interesting because you
Yeah.
hit 500 home runs, you need to be in the Hall of really good players in today's day and age. Because that's what I'm calling it nowadays. I've gotten to the point, and it's all the Hall of Fames, that it's no longer the Hall of Fame. It's the
Got it.
Hall of really good players. I don't think I can put him in there with, he doesn't play defense. He's a terrible defender, so he's a DH. And it's not like he hits for average like an Edgar Martinez. He hits home runs. He doesn't, it's not a great on base average. It's not like, Kurtz, hey, look, my on base is 440 to go along with all this power. I mean, he's like a reincarnation of Adam Dunn, but without the walks even. Adam Dunn walked a lot, but then he hit a lot of home runs.
Kurtz, by the way, Mr. Clutch, he leads the majors in batting average with runners in scoring position. He's at 444, and I believe second place is like 406. It's something out of its mind. Today, they're back in West Sac. Tonight, the Pirates will throw Mitch Keller at Jack Perkins going for the A's.
Yeah, not a big fan of the A's starter in this game, as we know. Keller, he can bring the heat. He's a good pitcher. He has really struggled this season, though. He's 5-4 ERA over 5. He's 0-2 in his last 3 starts. ERA over 13. His whip over his last 3 outings is 2.53. When he gets derailed, this is what you see. But Perkins, nothing good to write home about there. Let's fill it in. Let's see some runs scored. Let's get to the bullpens. Hope the A's bullpen can hang on. I did text Rob yesterday that Morales, live arm for the A's, is coming up. Good. He has not been very successful at the major league level. Let him figure it out. I'd rather have Morales, who has a live arm and can bring it on the mound, than some of these other guys they're throwing out there. So score a lot of runs. I wish it was in Las Vegas because I'd love to see a 25-23 run in this game tonight. But we're in Sacramento. There still should be a decent amount of runs scored.
Couple of series is starting up today, a full slate for the majors. You got 2 first place teams. The Yankees are a game and a half up on the Tampa Bay Rays. Yankees have won 7 of their last 10 and 2 in a row, and they are playing the first place by 0.001 percentage points Chicago White Sox team that is 6 games over 500. They've won 6 of their last 10. When the White Sox started this stretch, Steve, of hosting Atlanta, hosting the Dodgers, and going to the Yankees, 9 games, we said win 4 or 5, it's a success. They didn't get to play one of those games against the Braves, right? It was delayed.
Yes.
And so they've only played 5 of those 6 games. They're 4-1 as they go into New York. They've already won the 4. They just take one of these 3, they've won the 5. And what if they do something unthinkable? Today, Davis Martin throws for the White Sox, 4:00 West Coast time against Garrett Cole.
A great pitching matchup. As I've said all season long, Martin has been and should be a Cy Young candidate. He's had an unbelievable season, 9-2. His ERA is like 2.4. I think it was against the Braves his last outing. I believe he went 6 innings, didn't give up a run. So he has struggled a little bit in his last 3 outings. He had that rough start. I believe it was against the Giants. Not his last start, but the start before. But he is really good. Garrett Cole's getting the job done. He's 1-1, but he's looking like the Garrett Cole that we have known. But the Yankees, another big injury here. Trent Grisham has now gone down. They're running out of outfielders. They're hoping that Jason Dominguez can step in for Grissom, get the job done. But that means the Yankees are rolling with Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez in the outfield. We're not even sure if Dominguez is going to play tonight, though, because he had a tooth pulled. And I read this and I'm like,
What?
we as people all the time go to the dentist, get a tooth pulled. We go right back to work. You got a little gauze in your mouth and you continue working. How can a major league player? So I have to believe he's going to be in the lineup, but how can he miss a game because he had a tooth pulled yesterday? But both of these guys are two of the top prospects for the Yankees over the last couple of years. They need to step up now, show their prospect label wasn't a waste. They're quality players and help this Yankees team. Yankees are doing it by pitching right now. They're getting it done. They did score 8 in the game against the Blue Jays there, which was wonderful because they did it all against the bullpen to win late in the 9th inning. But the Yankees step up, young guys.
You mentioned the Atlanta Braves in there. They are the best team in Major League Baseball. 21 games over 500, and they get to host the San Francisco Giants, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball at 14 games under 500. The Giants are throwing Hauser at Grant Holmes today at 4:15.
Yeah, Grant Holmes has struggled a little bit. He's like a 5 starter for this team, 4-2, because he plays for the Braves and they find ways to win. Hauser, one of the pitchers that the Giants brought in to really help them. They brought in Melee. They've brought in some guys, just haven't done anything. Hauser's 2-6, ERA north of 5.5. He's 0-2 in his last 3. ERA almost 7. His whip in his last 3 is almost 1.8. Just not getting it done. And while the Giants are doing a better job hitting the ball, keep in mind, this is like one of the worst teams, if not the worst team, at taking a walk. So they're not a good offensive team in any way, and their pitching has been brutal outside of Logan Webb, who's thrown the ball really well his last 3 outings, and it's good to see him back on track. But the Giants, just not a whole lot to write home about.
We mentioned these last two are basically first on first series because the Tampa Bay Rays are a game and a half behind the Yankees, which is okay, and the Dodgers are sitting 8 games in front of the Padres. As the second best team in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers will host Tampa Bay tonight. Rasmussen's going for the Rays, and Roblowski is going for the Dodgers.
A really good pitching matchup. Curious to see how it goes. Rasmussen did not have his best start in his last, but he's been really good this season. He's 6-2. He's 2-1 in his last 3. His whip in his last 3 is 0.56. Robleski, to me, is one of the biggest unsung stories that we have seen. He is really not a top flight pitcher as far as what we knew going into the season. He's been outstanding. I think he's been one of the best pitchers for the Dodgers. He's 7-2. He's 1-0 in his last 3 outings. His whip over his last 3 outings is 0.85. Add in his whip for the year is just over 1. He's been a very pleasant surprise for the Dodgers. And I'm curious to see if Tampa Bay can take advantage, use that small ball, although they are hitting home runs now. Camaro's gotten it going. Arenado's gotten it going. Diaz has gotten it going. This Rays team is a good team, and I'd like to see what they can do against this Dodger team.
And tomorrow they will take on Shohei. One more that is basically a first-on-first matchup. The Cleveland Guardians, we mentioned them earlier. They're basically tied with the White Sox for the AL Central. The Brewers are 17 games over 500 and 4.5 ahead of the Cardinals. Cleveland will be in Milwaukee. Cleveland is throwing Ciccone, while the Brewers have Robert Gasser out. I love that name for a pitcher. Robert Gasser's going for the Brewers.
Yeah, not the best pitching matchup for fans to watch. There should be some runs scored in this game. Ciccone for the Guardians, 3-5, ERA close to 5. Has not been the great, but he has been better as of late. His whip over his last 3 outings is 1.3. And Gasser, this is the one pitcher that the Brewers have that they just don't seem to suddenly make an elite pitcher out of him. I mean, we've watched it with pitcher after pitcher, Kyle Harrison this year, but Gasser's 0-3 on the season, ERA of 6.5. His whip's over 1.5. And he's been even worse in his last 3 outings. 0-3, ERA over 7, a whip almost 1.7. No pitching coming out of this guy at this point in the season. So it should be a few runs scored here. And let's see if the Brewers can continue to score runs, even though they're not playing in Las Vegas after this last weekend.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
Longtime advertiser Sue Berry, that's Berry with an A, is more important now than ever. Sue and her team have been serving Northern Nevada and the outlying areas for 30 years, and her experience in both commercial and residential lending is vital, as every day we're bombarded with news of interest rates, the market, the economy, and a bunch of other stuff that Sue can actually make sense of while everyone else's eyes glaze over. Now remember, it's Sue Berry with an A, B-A-R-R-Y, SueBerry.com. Most people think berry is spelled like a fruit or Halle Berry, but no, it's Sue Berry with an A, like soul singer Barry White's first name.
I've heard people say.
Stop that. Sue is a broker versus a retail lender, which means she can shop over 150 different lenders to get you the very best rate possible. And on average, someone who uses a broker like Sue saves over $10,000 per loan, which includes refinancing. And if you have a rate at 6.5% or higher, call Sue for a free quote now on a refinance. Sue Berry and her incredible team from Barrett Financial can be found at SueBerry.com. That's Berry with an A. I've been working with Sue and recommending her to you for years. All you need to do is call her now so she can get you pre-approved. Just call your residential and commercial lending expert, Sue Berry, at 775-843-9983. Oh, Rob, stop. You're going too fast. What was the number again? 775-843-9983. Or just head to SueBerry.com. The number's right there. Berry is B-A-R-R-Y. Sue Berry with an A.com. That's Sue Berry, B-A-R-R-Y.com. SueBerry.com.
Disclaimer, Sue Berry, NMLS number 366040. Barrett Financial Group, LLC, NMLS number 181106, Nevada 509, Eagle House Management.
Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
For them, every day is a must-win. Huh? What does that even mean? Back to Rob and Steve. Email the show at res@theradnetwork.com.
NBA season is over, so we quickly turn to the draft and the offseason and predictions and everything that's going on and filling in holes. And the Chicago Bulls have reached a deal to hire Portland Trail Blazers interim coach Tiago Splitter as the franchise's new head coach. He stepped into the job in Portland last season, excelled. He's 41, guided the Trailblazers to a 42-40 record and a postseason berth as the number 7 seed in the West, led the Trailblazers to a top 10 defense, in their final 51 regular season games, gained the support of Portland's locker room. The Bulls met with 4 finalists for the head coaching job, landed on Splitter. They say due to his ability to lead the team's player development, blah, 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 blah. My question, similar to kind of what we were talking about at the start of the show, Steve, with the Golden Knights and Tortorella's not coming back, is why didn't the Trailblazers hire this guy?
I don't understand it. He's been mentioned as one of the hot coaching prospects out there. In an article I was reading yesterday, the Warriors were targeting him if he didn't get that head coaching job, as they wanted him to be one of their lead assistants on their bench to bring him on board, because they viewed him as, a really good young coach that can really help a team. I don't understand how Portland allowed him, didn't lock him up. When the changes, everyone went into the season with Chauncey Billups getting suspended and the allegations against him as this is an entirely lost season for the Blazers. You might as well just throw the season out. And he kept them competitive, put them in to what I call the playoffs. And they had a great year, focused on defense. He got a lot out of that team that could have just tucked their head between their knees and just walked away. And he performed, and then to not even reward him, sign him. I would have probably, unless there's things going on that we don't know about, I'd have signed him like the Kings did with Duck Christie. Just, hey, look, let's bring him on, sign him to a 3-year deal, show him we appreciate everything that he has done. And now we're going to give him control of the team to see where he can take it, because he has shown us that he has the ability under the toughest of circumstances to still put a quality product out on the court. I don't get it. I don't understand. I just keep going back to, this is why certain franchises are bad franchises.
And the extraordinary thing about this story is exactly what you alluded to there, was that as the Trailblazers became a legitimate playoff team, everybody's looking around going, how did this happen? And how Portland didn't then, like you said, lock him up. And the story is they've just been lollygagging and taking their time because they were interviewing other people, including Splitter, who's now gone. The Trailblazers now have to hire a new coach after Splitter is gone. And the other 2 that they have interviewed include Minnesota Timberwolves assistant Micah Nori and Boston Celtics assistant Tyler Lashbrook. They are the 2 remaining candidates who are expected to meet again with team ownership in the near future. So Portland's just sitting around and they just watch their coach just walk away, and I guess they'll choose from one of these other 2.
Yeah, I think it's a good move by the Bulls. Stepped up. Don't assume anything, and they're lollygagging. And look, go get him if you want him. Put your focus on it. Go get him. Portland did not value him, though, and that's where I wonder what's going on. I mean, the players responded, the fans responded, the team everyone responded to him. Was it the GM wasn't a big fan? Those are the things that happen behind closed doors that we really don't know, but I have to believe it's there.
The New York Knicks, this is where you always ruin this fun for us, because whenever we look at the right away after the end of one season favorites, you explain, well, it doesn't necessarily really mean that this is what we're predicting is going to happen. There's a business side to it. Blah, 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 blah. So the Knicks are the NBA champions. They are not the favorite to win next year's title heading into the offseason at most major sports books, online and whatnot. 3 teams, the Spurs, the Thunder, and the Celtics, have better odds to win the 27 NBA championship at sports books around the nation. And then the Knicks are 4th after becoming the 3rd biggest long shot to capture the championship in the past 50 years. Why, Steve, are the perennial champions, the defending champions, not the favorites to win it all?
And I don't understand it. The Knicks are the dynasty. This is the team of the 2000s in their season, greatest team we've seen in forever. No,
okay.
None of that's
sarcasm.
true. And you could even have asked me, will the Knicks be favored to win the Eastern Conference championship next year? And I said, no, they're not even going to be the favorite out of their own conference. The Celtics will be. They're a really good team. They won the championship. Hats off to them. Did things have to fall their way? Yes, I believe they had to fall their way in order to get the championship. And the sports books are the ones taking money on it. We can have our opinions, but until you back your opinion with here it is, and you allow the public to bet into it, your opinion isn't that important. And the sports books are the ones who are willing to risk their money on those opinions. And those opinions are the Knicks are not the best team, even in the East.
You mentioned yesterday not to sleep on the Pacers. Everybody forgot the Pacers existed this season because they wanted us to. The Pacers are right there with the Nuggets, making up the second tier of contenders, if you go by DraftKings, anyways, followed by the T Wolves, the Lakers, the Pistons, and the Cavaliers, all of whom are 30 to 1. And congratulations, the longest title odds entering the offseason at 1,000 to 1 are the Sacramento Kings.
The worst team in basketball, who now will only get 2 lottery balls when they go to their drawing, not 3 like teams 4 through 10 will get. So not only are they the worst team in the NBA, chances are they will have a bad allotment of, because there's other teams that are going to have 2 balls as well. So they're in the middle of the pack on their chances of getting the number 1 draft pick, even though they are clearly the worst team in the NBA.
Okay, so that's 3 times you said it. You're proclaiming in the middle of June that Sacramento will be the worst team in the NBA going into the season?
Where are they really going to go? I don't see a whole lot of hope there. There's a lot of talk of Sabonis is going to be traded. And I don't know how true this is, but one of the things I saw, because they've been talking about him going to the Hornets, but supposedly the Kings wanted some draft picks for Sabonis, and the Hornets said we're not even going to give you draft picks for him. So Sabonis, I like him. I think he's a really undervalued player in the NBA. I just think there's a lot of holes with this Kings team. I don't view their roster going, they are going to rebound quickly to be a contender.
Meanwhile, elsewhere, Brian Windhorst, by the way, put up a big story on ESPN about the storylines already shaping the NBA offseason. It's a good read if you're into basketball. The Rockets are expected to make front court upgrades this offseason to improve their roster around their core, and many are speculating that Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason might both be on the move, with Eason and Smith Jr. in favor of 10 all-time star Anthony Davis. Would they move both of them and bring in AD to Houston is one of the speculative things out there.
I'm real curious to see where AD ends up. I have to believe he is one of those players that teams are going to target. My question is where, Joel Embiid. I mean, I gotta believe the Sixers are tired of him. They got to move him on. Embiid, when he's healthy, and like Anthony Davis, but I'm getting a younger version of that, is as dominating as any player in the league. So there's zero talk of Embiid moving out of Philadelphia. Maybe they've come to terms, and they've both, agreed to tolerate each other, and he's going to stay there. I also want to see where Julius Randle ends up. I think this is the offseason where teams, because of what Wemby has done, that you're going to see that shift to the big man. You got to get some height. You got to get some size inside. It's no longer just about who can put up the three. And it seemed that that's where the league has gone, that the shooting guard who can knock down the threes become a top priority. And I think we're going to see the offseason shift to the center, the front court, and getting some size there.
Well, you are right. There is nothing. There is just crickets about Joel Embiid and anything happening with him, and all the other names are out there. AD's getting a ton of play. Obviously, nobody's getting more than Giannis. And chatter surrounding a direct blockbuster deal involving the Bucks and the Celtics, which we talked about yesterday, and centered on Jaylen Brown, seems to be kind of the gold standard for a possible deal. But we also heard Milwaukee was looking around, trying to see what else is out there, and they may have a different game plan, according to the Dallas Hoops Journal. They're reporting this morning that a third team has entered the mix that would actually be the ones that would land Brown, and that would be the Clippers. A potential multi team trade framework making the rounds in league circles would bring Giannis to the Celtics, Jaylen Brown to the Clippers, and the Clippers' number 5 overall pick goes to the Milwaukee Bucks as part of the return, something a lot of these minds from around the league are saying would be a shocking turn of events and would indicate to them the Bucks are opting for a full-blown rebuild around their young core if this is true.
Okay, the 5th pick. Well, that's nothing close. Are you talking Kawhi? I don't think I would trade Giannis for Kawhi and the 5th pick. What are they looking for? And I keep watching these things going, where's an incentive for Milwaukee? Or is the whole thought of we got to move Giannis, we don't care, we're just going to ship him off for any package that even remotely seems interesting? I think they can get a huge haul and no one's will outside of me. I mean, I was offering Holmgren, SGA, and 2 number ones, and everyone could say, "Oh, that's crazy." But I still believe if you really want to make a trade, you find out what you can give up and make them say no. I will say no all day long if it's Kawhi and the 5th pick overall. I'm not even considering it.
What about we talked a little bit about this yesterday. What about in its vacuum, Giannis to the Celtics?
I think the Celtics would love to do that, but what are they giving up? They got to give up more than Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry. I like Jaylen Brown. I think he's one of the better players in the league, but it's got to take more than that.
Windhorse says this morning that while that the Bucks are not in love with Miami's offer, that's where Giannis has said he wants to go, and they continue to discuss trade packages with other teams, and the Celtics are on his list, and he would be willing to extend his contract if he were traded there too. There's 2 stumbling blocks. One we mentioned already, which was it would require the Celtics to completely overhaul how they play. The speeds are completely different when you add Giannis in. The other one is what you're alluding to. According to Windhurst, it would require the team to break up the successful duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, perhaps by sending both of them to the
Mhm.
Bucks.
Yeah,
Oh,
that wouldn't shock me at all. That if I'm Milwaukee, that's what I'm asking, and they're not going to get it, but that's what I'm asking. And the Miami Heat, they've been talking with the Bucks for months, and they haven't been able to close this deal. I don't think Giannis coming out and saying that's where I want to go is suddenly going to close the deal, because if Milwaukee felt that their package was worth it, they would have pulled the trigger on this before the trade deadline last year. They're still not there. It's Miami trying to, and now that Giannis came out and said, "Look, this is the only team I want to go to." If I'm Miami, I'm even pull. Well, I'm not, because I believe in making them say no. But most GMs are going to pull back part of what they're offering, was saying, "Look, Giannis only wants to come here. I don't even have to give up as much as I've been offering." That they've been saying no, and they will come around because he will force the trade, and then I can keep a little bit of my assets that I was willing to offer.
so if this is true, though, let's go back to the Celtics side of it. Windhorst is saying that maybe the Celtics have responded to Giannis saying you're going to force the trade, and you've said we're the other ones, we're the team you'll sign with, and you go, yeah, well, if I'm Milwaukee, I want Brown and Tatum. You said that's what I would want if I was Milwaukee. Would you do it if you were Boston?
No, no, I think they can get other things. They're so close. I don't think Giannis makes them a better team, a healthy Giannis, but I'm not convinced it fits with their style of what they do and the way that they play. I'm just not convinced. They are much more about the three, etc. I think they fit more with the Thunder, and don't mean to constantly go back to that. But the Thunder are not a team that relies on their ability to shoot the three. They are what? They're around 20th in 3-point shots attempted. They play more of an inside game. They do like to run, which is where he fits. I think he fits great with the Detroit Pistons. Pistons don't have the capital, nor would he ever. Why would I go from, Wisconsin to Michigan? There's no advantage from Milwaukee to Detroit in any way, but he fits with them because they're a transition team as well. I just don't think his style matches with Boston, that I would be willing. They'd have to change everything they do, and you're too close to blow the whole team up.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
The first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from quickdumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I-K dumpsters.com. That's quickdumpsters.com. Corey's yet another maggot launching his own locally owned and operated business, and boy, did I need him, and really we all do. Things pile up, you get frustrated, you keep saying, "We need to make a dump run." Pretty soon it's more than a dump run, and now you need to rent a truck or have one of those ugly upside down box cars parked in front of your house that you fill up yourself. Or you do like I did, you call Corey at quickdumpsters.com. In my case, my house had fallen into complete disarray as my late wife Christina had lost her 2-year battle with congestive heart failure, and amongst the many things left were gathering her things and finding what to donate, what had to just go in that pile of stuff where we were both going, why did we ever buy this? And it all could have been so overwhelming had Corey not just walked in, taken charge, and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story's incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to quickdumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com. Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
For them, every day is a must-win. Huh? What does that even mean? Back to Rob and Steve. Email the show at res@theradnetwork.com.
Let's stay with basketball. NBA season just ended. Everybody's speculating. We got the draft in, a week? And all the offseason moves and trades. And, of course, by law, you can't talk about it without bringing up the Lakers. Brian Windhurst has a big story documenting what he says are the big storylines of the NBA offseason. Some things we're not even mentioning that to me are so obvious. Like, yeah, they're gonna sanction, they're gonna announce a new team in Vegas and Seattle. That'll happen in the offseason. That'll be not this next season, but next season, right? Is it 27 or 28? It's 27, 26, 7.
Some reason I was thinking it was like 29. I thought it was a little farther out, because you take Las Vegas. I guess they could start in T-Mobile until an arena is built, but Vegas has so many areas that are proposing the arena, but I don't think anybody has broken ground yet, and they haven't settled on where it would be, even if they get a team awarded at this time. I'm just really hoping if Seattle gets it, please bring back the Supersonics. I'm
Right,
hoping
you
they
got
don't
to.
go to another nickname.
No, no, you got to go back to the Sonics. You can't be the Kraken. You can't be anything. You're the Sonics. That's it. Period. How about those Lakers? They have the possibility. If you want to just look at it and play with the lint in your navel, that's what Windhorst does over this stuff. They have the potential to have over $50 million in salary cap space, although to get there, they would have to lose, in this example from Brian Windhorst, 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists a night, which are the combined per-game averages of LeBron James and Rui Hachimura, who would have to be off the roster in order to create that room, which they would need if they want to include unrestricted free agent Austin Reeves, who the Lakers are going to have to fend off other suitors for, we talked about yesterday, but keeping Reeves is a high priority for the Lakers. And then there's the argument coming out of SoCal that the Lakers would be smart to make their course of action to just re-sign their players and hopefully to deals that are short and manageable and hope for Luka to have better health down the stretch of the season. Boy, there's a real solid plan. Windhorst says the Lakers are not overall in bad shape. They're in LA. They're coming off for a 53-win season. They have Luka in his prime. They have the deep-pocketed new owners of the Dodgers. And that last one, Steve, is actually the part that's the most compelling to me that we haven't talked about a lot. We allude to it and we mention it. This LeBron thing, coupled with what I don't know how you can describe as anything other than the brilliance that has been the way the Dodgers have run that franchise, and now they're bringing the same team over to the Lakers, could really be the wild card or in this whole thing, to where they might be thinking, you guys got this all wrong. We've already figured this out, and we already know where, we just don't know where they're headed. What we've heard from LeBron most recently is he's going to say, give me the max, the $52.5 million. Oh, wait, I'll take less if you show me where you're going to spend my money. What about Austin Reeves, etc.? Here's the latest from LA, because it's every damn day we get something.
And I'm really curious to see where this ownership goes. We're talking about it, and I believe they are going to run it like the Dodgers. But are they able to transition and take what they do so well with baseball? Does it translate into basketball? The evaluating the talent, the determining how to run the contracts, structure the contracts, and build that team for the future to be a powerhouse for years to come? Let's find out. It'd be great if it was. Uh, let's run it back, because I think that was the second option. Okay, that falls back into my point I made last year, even in the beginning of April, of yes, great March. Luke was healthy, had an unbelievable month of March. Are they good enough to win a championship? No, they're not good enough to win a championship. Is that good enough for you this year as the Lakers to make the playoffs, maybe advance out of the first round, but you're really not going to go anywhere? I don't think that's the goal of this ownership. I think they want to win.
Okay.
And with that, I'm curious to see how this season plays out.
You have never been a big fan of Luka. And you've talked about, I think, the word selfish and not in shape and things like so. If you're the Dodgers brain power, brain trust, and you're coming in and you've got Luka, and there's, as you know, there's plenty of people that disagree with you. They think he's the best player that hasn't won a championship yet. What do the Lakers need to do? Not what they can do, because maybe it's a 2-year plan in your head. But what would the Dodgers do to take this Lakers team and make them up there with the Spurs and OKC right now this offseason?
I'm not sure they can. I don't know exactly where they go. I mean, okay, we're losing LeBron and we're losing Rui Hachimura. Okay. And we're going to re-sign to pick up 50 million, and then we're going to re-sign Austin Reeves. Well, Austin Reeves is going to take X amount of money, a lot of suitors there. So what, now you're the money, and I don't know what Austin Reeves is making. If he was making 40, he's going to want 50. If he was making 30, maybe you can get him for 40. So that 50 million isn't true if you're going to re-sign Austin Reeves and give him a bump in his pay. Well, okay, we're down, Rui, we're down LeBron. We're not a better team right now. Yes, we have some money, but let's say they go out and I'll just throw it out there. They go sign Anthony. They go pick up Anthony Davis and his contract, which takes up all the money. Are they better with Anthony Davis with Luka, with Reeves than they were with Rui Hachimura, LeBron, Reeves, and Luka. I don't think they're better. They might be as good. So you
Yeah.
didn't improve anything.
Lateral move.
Yeah, I don't see the Lakers really being able to do anything. And I don't know where they stand on draft picks, but I believe they really don't have a whole lot sitting there for draft capital to do anything else. So do you trade Luca for a couple of star players and try to land like 3, 4, 5 number one draft picks to a very talented, deep team? Like let's move Luca to the Thunder and their draft capital. And it's never going to happen. I'm just throwing things out there going, because if you're the Lakers, you have to explore all options. Well, okay, I can bring in a couple of guards. I can bring in someone. We got a draft capital, and I start rebuilding that way. That is more appealing to me than knowing I have no draft capital. I have Luca. I have no cap space, and I have a mediocre roster. And that's why I'm so intrigued to see what this new ownership group is going to do and how quickly they can turn it around. Because I don't like the hand they're being dealt at the moment. And I'd love to see what they can make out of it.
You mentioned yesterday that finally, after all these years of tanking, that maybe the Wizards, maybe we should pay a little bit of attention. Windhorst thinks so. Mainly, obviously, they've got the number one pick in next week's draft. And are they looking at AJ DeBansa or Darren Peterson? Do you have a pick? Do you have the number one? Does it matter? It's the Wizards. Do you believe they're going to become anything?
No, I'm not convinced they're really going to become anything. Man, I'll tell you, if it was me, I would go with Peterson. I think he has the most upside. I think he's the biggest wild card in there because you don't know really what you're going to get. He could be a Hall of Famer, or he could be a player that normally plays on the Wizards. I mean, this is what the franchise does. I'd take the gamble and shoot for the Hall of Famer and hope he could turn my franchise around. I'm no worse off than I am currently right now. But if you keep Anthony Davis, they have some players on this team. I mean, it's not great, but SAR's coming back. They have some players to make it interesting. So I would go Peterson.
And then a lot of people are talking about the second apron concerns, if you will, for OKC. They've got huge contract extensions kicking in for Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, so they're about to go from being under the luxury tax all the way into the second apron. It's possible the Thunder, who have young players on cheaper contracts, could take on bigger roles and they end up losing a player or two to the apron gods, as Windhorst likes to call them. It's also possible they cut some corners, trade away one of their 2 first-round picks in this year's draft to move up for a future selection. We've done this for over a week. You've got Holmgren, right, packing his bags. And in terms of the Spurs, not the Spurs, the Thunder, trying to make sure they're keeping up with the Spurs and in position to do whatever they're going to have to do to get back into that. Yeah, we can win 3 or 4 rings with this team.
See, I think they got to start paying the players, which is why, again, I keep going to the Thunder. They have the draft capital. They're going to draft 2 players in the first round here if they hold on to those picks to bring them in, and they got to pay that money for those slots. And they're going to start losing players. Trade them before you lose them. You got Caruso, you got Dort, both making over 18 million. You got to move one of them. So move them. That picks you up 18 million there. You move Holmgren, you pick up X amount there. Maybe you keep Holmgren and you move Hartenstein and pick up 28. They have to do something. The apron comes in. And the part that I want to see, because as you said, they're moving to that second tier. Does the ownership have the stomach to write that additional check for the penalties? Or are they going to reset? And this was one of the things that supposedly caused the rift as Alex Rodriguez and his ownership was taken over the Wolves, because they had a really good season and they started paying, and Rodriguez was like, no, we got to get out of this. apron penalty, and we have to go with and make some cuts to the roster because we don't want to pay it. Now that they have full ownership, are they going to have the stomach to pay these teams? Because when you win, players want to get paid. The more you win, the more they get paid, the more you hit the apron. And this is where that good ownership comes into. We know the Mets are willing to pay it. That they don't shy away from that at all. They have the payroll. They just don't have the baseball people to assemble the roster properly. The Dodgers are willing to pay it. We've seen that, but they have the baseball people to do it. That's why I say in any sport, there's really only 8 to 10 franchises that are competing to win championships that are willing to stomach those apron paychecks. The Celtics are, we know it, and they were forced to move it on after their championship, a couple of years ago, and this last year they had to change it up. But you want your ownership that has the stomach that's willing to write that $100 million plus check because we want to win. We know the Warriors are there. They're not afraid. They want to win championships. And that's why there's only 8 to 10 teams that really, truly want to win a championship because you have to have that stomach to do that. And most owners do not because they treat it as a business.
Have a great day. We're back tomorrow.
This has been a presentation of the Rob and Steve Sports Show, brought to you by the Rad Network and is copyrighted by the radnetwork.com and Williams Broadcasting for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of whatever Rob and Steve just talked about without the express permission of the Rad Network, Williams Broadcasting,